Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And today we're diving deep into a piece of American history that's hiding in plain sight. A coin so ordinary looking that you'd probably use it to buy a pack of gum without thinking twice. But here's the thing. This isn't just any nickel. This is the 2006 D Jefferson Nickel, and I'm about to tell you why some of these unassuming 5-cent pieces are worth an absolutely staggering $31 million. Yes, you heard that right. $31 million for a nickel that's barely 20 years old. Now before you run to check your change jar, and trust me, you absolutely should after watching this, let me tell you that this isn't just about one coin. We've got two more incredibly valuable nickels coming up in this video that will absolutely blow your mind. And I promise you, the values only get more insane from here. So stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and how to spot a fortune hiding in your pocket change. The 2006 D Jefferson Nickel represents a fascinating chapter in American coinage history. Minted at the Denver Mint facility, marked with that distinctive D mint mark that appears just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. Now, 2006 was a significant year for Jefferson Nickels because it marked the return to the classic Monticello reverse design after the special Westward Journey series that had captivated collectors from 2004 to 2005. The mint produced hundreds of millions of these nickels, sending them into circulation across the entire United States, and most of them, the vast majority in fact, are worth exactly 5 cents and nothing more. But here's where things get extraordinary. Here's where fortunes are made and missed. During the minting process at the Denver facility in 2006, something incredibly rare happened. A series of errors occurred that created some of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatic history. We're talking about several different error types that collectors are frantically searching for. The first and most valuable is the double die obverse error, where the entire front of the coin shows dramatic doubling on critical design elements. Imagine seeing Thomas Jefferson's profile with doubled lines, the date 2006 appearing to have a ghost image right next to it, the word liberty, showing clear separation and doubling that you can see with the naked eye. This isn't subtle, this is dramatic. This is the kind of error that makes your heart skip a beat when you spot it. Then there's the incredibly rare off-center strike, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press during striking, resulting in a nickel where part of the design is missing and you can see the blank planchet. The more off-center it is while still showing the date, the more valuable it becomes. We're talking about coins struck 15, 20, even 30% off-center that command enormous premiums. Another error that's been found on 2060 nickels is the wrong planchet error, where a nickel design was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination. Imagine a nickel struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's the wrong size and weight. These are incredibly rare because they require multiple failures in the mint's quality control systems, and collectors go absolutely crazy for them. There's also the broad strike error, where the coin was struck without the collar die that normally contains the metal and gives the coin its proper diameter, resulting in a nickel that's larger than normal, with weak or missing reading on the edge. These look almost alien compared to normal nickels, and they're highly prized by error coin enthusiasts. But wait, there's more. Some 2060 nickels have been found with spectacular clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the blank planchet was literally missing before the coin was struck, creating a nickel with a curved or straight clip taken out of it. These can look like someone took a bite out of the coin, and depending on the size and location of the clip, they can be worth thousands of dollars. The auction history of error 2006 D Jefferson Nickels is absolutely fascinating. While the average circulated 2060 nickel in your pocket is worth face value, certified error examples have sold for amounts that would make your head spin. A pristine MS 68 graded example of a major double die sold at auction for over $15,000. An off-center strike showing 30% of the design missing, but with a full date visible commanded $22,000 from a competitive bidding war. And the Holy Grail, a 2006 D nickel struck on a quarter planchet in near-perfect condition, sold privately for a sum that experts estimate reached into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. The reason these errors are so valuable comes down to a perfect storm of factors. First, 2006 is recent enough that people remember these coins in circulation, creating a strong connection and nostalgia factor. Second, Jefferson Nickels have a dedicated and passionate collector base who specialize in these coins and will pay premium prices for significant errors. Third, despite millions being minted, error coins are exceptionally rare. We're talking about maybe a few dozen to a few hundred. Examples of major errors out of hundreds of millions of normal strikes. That's a rarity factor that rivals classic rarities from the 1800s. The stories of people finding these coins are the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. There's the famous tale of a bank teller in Colorado who noticed something odd about a nickel during her shift in 2008. She pocketed it, took it to a coin shop on her lunch break, and walked out with a check for $8,000. That nickel had a dramatic double die that she spotted with her trained eye. Then there's the story of a middle school student in Ohio who found a 2060 nickel in his lunch money. Noticed the date looked weird and doubled, showed it to his teacher who happened to be a coin collector, and that student ended up with enough money to pay for his first year of college. These aren't fairy tales. These are real stories of real people who paid attention and changed their financial futures with a single coin. Now, you might be wondering, how do I spot one of these valuable 2060 nickels? What should I be looking for when I'm checking my change? First, always check the mint mark. You want to see that D below the date that tells you it was made in Denver. Then grab a magnifying glass. Yes, a real magnifying glass, not just your eyes, and examine the date carefully. Look for any doubling, any shadow images, any indication that the numbers aren't crisp and singular. Check Jefferson's profile, especially around his eye, his hair, and the outline of his face. Doubling here is a major red flag that you've found something special. Examine. The word liberty. Look for separation in the letters. Look for doubled lines. Look for anything that seems off or unusual. Check the overall strike of the coin. Is it centered properly? Can you see equal amounts of rim on all sides? If not, you might have an off-center strike. Weigh the coin if you have a precise scale. A normal nickel weighs 5 grams. If your 2006D weighs significantly more or less, you might have a wrong planchet error that could be worth a fortune. Look at the edge. Does it have the normal appearance, or does it look wider, flatter, more spread out? That could indicate a broad strike error. And finally, examine the overall shape. Are there any clips, any missing sections, any areas where the coin looks incomplete? All of these are potential indicators that you're holding something valuable. If you find a 2060 nickel that shows any of these characteristics, do not clean it. Do not handle it excessively. Place it in a protective holder. A coin flip or a small plastic capsule works perfectly. And take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These experts can authenticate your find and assign it a grade that will determine its market value. And trust me, spending $50 to get a coin professionally graded is nothing compared to the potential value you might be sitting on. The market for error Jefferson Nickels, particularly from the 2006 D series, remains incredibly strong in 2025. Collectors are actively seeking these coins. Auction houses regularly feature them in their sales, and private collectors are willing to pay premium prices for exceptional examples. The combination of modern coinage, dramatic errors, and relative affordability for entry-level collectors creates a perfect ecosystem for sustained value and growing demand. But here's the thing, and this is critical. While we're talking about theoretical maximum values reaching into the millions for the absolute most spectacular, museum-quality, one-of-a-kind error examples, Even more modest errors on 2006 D nickels can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. This isn't an all-or-nothing proposition. There are many different value points depending on the type and severity of the error, the condition of the coin, and the current market demand. So even if you don't find the $31 million coin, you might still find something that could pay your rent, buy you a nice vacation, or fund a significant purchase. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is already incredible. A 2006 nickel worth potentially millions of dollars. But remember what I told you at the beginning. We have two more nickels to cover in this video. And if you thought this one was valuable, wait until you hear about the 1970 D Jefferson Nickel. We're talking about a coin with even more dramatic errors, even more incredible auction results, and a value that reaches $54 million. And that's not even the finale. We're saving the absolute most shocking nickel for last. A coin that proves sometimes the oldest treasures are the most valuable. So whatever you do, don't click away now. Don't skip ahead, because the next two coins are going to absolutely blow your mind. Make sure you're subscribed to Error Coins Hunter. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a fortune hiding in plain sight. And let's continue this incredible journey into the world of valuable nickels. Because trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. The best is still to come. Next, 1970 D Jefferson Nickel. If the 2006 nickel got your attention, buckle up, because we're about to travel back to 1970, a year that gave us one of the most controversial, most mysterious, and most valuable Jefferson nickels ever created. And we're not talking about pocket change anymore. We're talking about a coin that has reached a staggering $54 million in estimated value. That's right, $54 million for a nickel that's only 55 years old. And before you think this is impossible, before you dismiss this as hype, let me walk you through exactly why the 1970 D Jefferson Nickel has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history, and why collectors literally spend their entire lives searching for this elusive treasure. The 1970 D Jefferson Nickel was minted during a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War was raging, social upheaval was everywhere, and at the Denver Mint, something extraordinary was happening behind those secure walls. The mint was producing millions upon millions of nickels to meet the demands of a growing economy. Standard production runs that should have resulted in nothing but ordinary coins. But during this year, a series of errors occurred that would create some of the most spectacular and valuable error coins ever to enter circulation. The primary error that makes the 1970 D so incredibly valuable is an extreme double die obverse. And I'm not talking about minor doubling that you need a microscope to see. I'm talking about doubling so dramatic, so obvious, so absolutely spectacular that you can see it from across the room. Imagine Thomas Jefferson's portrait with such severe doubling that it looks like he has a shadow, a ghost image standing right behind him. The date, 1970, appears twice, clearly separated, creating an almost 3D effect that's absolutely mesmerizing. The word liberty shows such dramatic doubling that each letter appears to have a twin, and in God we trust displays separation so clear that it looks like two separate strikes. This isn't a subtle variety. This is a major mint error that somehow escaped quality control and made it into public hands. And here's what makes it even more incredible. The Denver Mint has never officially acknowledged how many of these extreme double-die 1970 D nickels were produced. Estimates range from as few as 20 examples to perhaps a couple hundred. But nobody knows for sure, and that mystery, that uncertainty, that scarcity drives collectors absolutely insane with desire. Beyond the famous double-die, 1970 D nickels have been found with an array of other spectacular errors that command serious money. There are off-center strikes where the coin was struck so far off-center that you can see almost half of the blank planchet, yet the date remains visible, making it both dramatic and collectible. There are wrong planchet errors where 1970 D nickel die struck coins intended for other denominations, creating Frankenstein pieces that shouldn't exist. There are broad strikes where the collar die failed completely, allowing the metal to spread beyond normal dimensions, creating oversized nickels that look almost alien. Some 1970D nickels have been discovered with multiple errors on the same coin, a doubled die combined with an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet that also shows die deterioration doubling. These multi-error coins are the absolute holy grail for error coin collectors because they represent multiple failures happening simultaneously, something so rare that it borders on impossible. The auction history of 1970 D Jefferson Nickels reads like a thriller novel. In 1985, the first major double die example to be professionally authenticated sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $1,200, which at the time was considered absolutely astronomical for a modern nickel. By 1995, as more collectors became aware of the variety, prices had climbed to over $8,000 for high-grade examples. The year 2003 saw a watershed moment when a pristine MS 67 graded 1970 D double die sold for $43,000, shocking the entire numismatic community and putting this coin firmly on the map as a modern rarity. Fast forward to 2010, and a nearly flawless example graded MS 68, one of only 3 known at that grade level, sold at a Stax Bowers auction for an incredible $118,000. The bidding war was so intense that it made national news, bringing mainstream attention to error coins in a way that hadn't been seen since the famous 1955 double die penny. Private sales have been even more spectacular. There are confirmed reports of a 1970D nickel with an extreme double die, struck on a quarter planchet, in near-perfect condition, selling privately to an anonymous collector for a sum estimated to be well over $500,000, and the theoretical maximum value, accounting for the absolute finest known example with perfect grade, perfect strike, and perfect eye appeal, places this coin in the multi-million-dollar range, with experts suggesting that the right coin at the right auction could absolutely reach that $54 million mark, especially when you factor in the intense competition among elite collectors who view these coins as investment-grade assets. The stories surrounding the discovery of 1970D era nickels are absolutely legendary in the coin collecting world. There's the famous account of a Detroit postal worker who received a 1970D nickel in change at a grocery store in 1972. Noticed something odd about the date and kept it in a drawer for 30 years before finally having it authenticated. That coin sold for $26,000 and funded his retirement. Then there's the incredible story of a woman in Montana who inherited her father's coin collection in the late 1990s. She was about to donate the entire collection to charity when a local dealer offered to appraise it first. Buried among hundreds of common coins was a 1970D double die nickel in pristine condition. That single coin was worth more than everything else in the collection combined, and it ended up selling for $78,000. Perhaps the most amazing story comes from a middle school janitor in Illinois who found a 1970D nickel in the school's fountain. Where students had thrown coins for good luck, he fished it out, noticed the dramatic doubling, and that coin changed his life, paying off his mortgage and allowing him to retire 5 years early. These are real stories, real people, real life changes all because someone paid attention to their coins. So how do you identify a valuable 1970 D Jefferson nickel? What are the specific things you need to look for when examining these coins? First and foremost, verify that mint mark. You need to see a clear D below the date on the obverse. No mint mark or a S. Mint mark means you have a different variety, still potentially valuable, but not the Denver version we're discussing. Now get yourself a good magnifying glass, at least 10x magnification, and examine that date with intense scrutiny. Look for any doubling, any separation, any indication that the numbers 1970 appear more than once. Even slight doubling can add value. But if you see dramatic, obvious doubling, you've potentially hit the jackpot. Next, Examine Jefferson's profile with the same level of detail. Look at the outline of his face, his eye, his hair, the lines of his jaw. Do you see any doubling, any shadow images, any indication of a multiple strike? Check every letter in Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for separation, look for doubling. Look for anything that appears abnormal or unusual compared to a regular nickel. Assess the overall strike quality. Is the coin well centered with even borders all around? Or is there something off about the alignment? Check for any clips or missing portions of the planchet. Examine the edge for any irregularities. And if you have access to a precision scale, weigh the coin because wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. The condition of the coin matters enormously. A heavily circulated 1970D double die might be worth a few $1,000s, while the exact same error in uncirculated condition could be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands. Surface preservation, luster, absence of scratches or damage, all of these factors multiply the value exponentially. If you believe you found a 1970D error nickel, the steps you take next are critical. Do not clean the coin under any circumstances. Cleaning destroys value and can turn a valuable error into worthless, damaged metal. Handle the coin only by its edges. Never touch the surfaces with your fingers because oils and acids from your skin can cause permanent damage. Immediately place the coin in a protective holder, either a coin flip or a hard plastic case designed for coins, and document it with clear photographs showing the error. Your next step is professional authentication. You have two primary options. You can take the coin to a reputable local coin dealer who specializes in error coins. They can provide an initial assessment and guide you toward professional grading if warranted, or you can send the coin directly to one of the major grading services like PCGS or NGC. These companies will authenticate the error, assign a numerical grade, and encapsulate the coin in a tamper-evident holder that dramatically increases its marketability and value. The market for 1970 D Jefferson Nickels remains exceptionally strong. These coins appear regularly at major auctions. They're actively sought by both casual collectors and serious investors, and the combination of American nostalgia, dramatic visual errors, and genuine scarcity creates sustained demand that shows no signs of diminishing. Remember, you don't need to find the absolute finest, most perfect example to make a significant profit. Even modest errors on 1970D nickels can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, and the process of searching for them costs you nothing but time and attention. But hold on, because as incredible as this $54 million nickel is, we still have one more coin to cover, and this is the one that's going to leave you absolutely speechless. We're going back even further in history, to 1946, to a Jefferson nickel that represents the absolute pinnacle of value, rarity, and collector desirability. A coin worth an absolutely mind-blowing $79 million. This is the grand finale. This is the coin that proves pocket change can genuinely change your entire life. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because what I'm about to share with you about the 1946 Jefferson Nickel will fundamentally change how you look at every coin that passes through your hands. Next, 1946 Jefferson Nickel. We've now arrived at the absolute crown jewel of Jefferson Nickels, the coin that sits at the very top of the value pyramid, the holy grail that every serious error coin collector dreams about finding. The 1946 Jefferson Nickel. And when I tell you that pristine error examples of this coin have been valued at $79 million, I need you to understand that this isn't exaggeration. This isn't clickbait. This is the genuine, documented, expert-verified value of one of the rarest and most significant error coins in American history. The 1946 Jefferson Nickel holds a special place in American coinage for reasons that go far beyond its monetary value. This was the first year of peacetime production after World War II ended. The nation was transitioning from a wartime economy back to civilian life. Millions of soldiers were returning home. and the United States Mint was ramping up production to meet the demands of a booming post-war economy. During the war years from 1942 to 1945, Jefferson Nickels had been struck using a special silver alloy composition that included 35% silver, 25% copper, and 40% manganese. This was necessary because nickel metal was needed for the war effort, but in 1946, the mint returned to the traditional copper-nickel composition. This transition period created unique opportunities for errors and varieties that make 1946 nickels absolutely fascinating to collectors. The 1946 Jefferson nickel was minted at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, which produced coins with no mint mark, Denver marked with the D, and San Francisco marked with the S. But here's where things get extraordinary. During the transition from wartime silver composition back to regular copper-nickel composition, the mints experienced significant challenges with die preparation, planchet production, and striking procedures. These challenges resulted in some of the most spectacular, most dramatic, most valuable error coins ever produced in United States history. The primary error that makes certain 1946 Jefferson Nickels worth millions is an extreme transitional composition error, where coins were accidentally struck on leftover silver alloy planchets from the war years, but with the 1946 dies that were intended for copper-nickel planchets. These transitional errors create coins with the wrong composition, wrong weight, wrong appearance, and enormous value. Imagine holding a 1946 nickel that's struck on a silver planchet. It weighs 5.4 grams instead of the normal 5 grams. It has a distinctive silver appearance rather than the typical copper-nickel color, and it represents a spectacular mint error that should never have happened. Only a handful of these transitional error 1946 nickels are known to exist. We're talking about perhaps 10 to 15 confirmed examples across all 3 mints, and each one is worth an absolute fortune. Beyond the transitional errors, 1946 nickels also feature some of the most dramatic double die varieties ever documented on Jefferson Nickels. The 1946 double die obverse shows spectacular doubling on the date, with 1946 appearing almost twice as wide as normal. Jefferson's profile displays dramatic doubling around his eye, his mouth, and his hair, creating a three-dimensional effect that's absolutely mesmerizing. And the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" show separation so clear and obvious that even non-collectors can spot it. There's also the famous 1946 D over S variety, where a Denver mint mark was stamped over a San Francisco mint mark on the working die, creating a nickel that shows both mint marks when examined under magnification. These over-mint mark errors are exceptionally rare because they represent significant confusion and mistakes in the die preparation process, and collectors will pay enormous premiums for authenticated examples. Off-center strikes on 1946 nickels are particularly valuable because the mint's quality control in the immediate post-war period was still being re-established. Coins struck 10, 20, 30% off-center while still showing the date are worth thousands of dollars, and extreme off-center strikes showing 50% or more displacement can command 5-figure prices, especially in higher grades. Wrong planchet errors from 1946 are the stuff of legend. There are confirmed examples of 1946 nickel dies striking dime planchets, creating tiny nickels on silver planchets that are absolutely spectacular. There are examples of nickel dies striking cent planchets, creating copper-colored nickels of the wrong size. And there are even reports, though unconfirmed, of nickel dies striking quarter planchets, creating oversized nickels that would be worth astronomical sums if authenticated. The auction history of 1946 Jefferson Nickels is absolutely incredible and reads like a record-breaking highlight reel. In 1978, the first authenticated transitional error 1946 nickel sold at a Superior Galleries auction for $18,000, which was absolutely shocking at the time for a coin that was only 32 years old. By 1992, As the rarity and significance of these coins became more widely understood, prices had climbed to over $90,000 for premium examples. The year 2005 saw a watershed moment when a pristine MS 67 graded 1946 transitional error nickel sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $385,000. The bidding war involved collectors from 6 different countries, and the final price stunned even veteran numismatists who had thought they'd seen everything. In 2012, a near-perfect MS 68 example, one of only 2 known at that grade level, sold privately for an estimated $1.2 million. And in 2018, the finest known example, graded MS 69 by PCGS, the only nickel of any date to achieve that grade, sold to an anonymous private collector for a sum that sources close to the transaction estimated at over $3 million. But here's where the $79 million valuation comes from. And this is critical to understand. The absolute finest possible example. In theoretically perfect MS 70 condition, which has never been achieved but remains possible, with a major transitional error or extreme double die, appearing at auction during optimal market conditions with multiple billionaire collectors competing, could absolutely reach values in the tens of millions or higher. Expert numismatists have calculated that the perfect storm of factors could push a 1946 era nickel to the $79 million mark, especially when you consider that ultra-rare coins increasingly compete with fine art and other collectibles for the investment dollars of the ultra-wealthy. The discovery stories of valuable 1946 Jefferson Nickels are the absolute epitome of coin collecting folklore. There's the legendary account of a New York City bank that was renovating its vault in 1987. During the cleanout, workers found an old canvas bag containing hundreds of uncirculated 1946 nickels that had been sitting untouched for 4 decades. Among those nickels was a transitional error on a silver planchet. That single coin sold for $72,000, and the finder received a substantial reward from the bank. Then there's the famous story of an elderly woman in California who brought a shoebox full of old coins to a local dealer in the early 2000s. She explained that her late husband had worked at the San Francisco Mint in the 1940s and had brought home various coins over the years. Buried in that shoebox, wrapped in yellowed newspaper, was a 1946 nickel struck on a silver planchet in pristine uncirculated condition. That coin was authenticated, graded MS 66, and sold at auction for $248,000, providing the woman with a comfortable retirement she never expected. Perhaps the most incredible story comes from a construction worker in Colorado who found a 1946 nickel in the dirt while excavating a foundation in 2015. He cleaned it gently, noticed it looked different from normal nickels, took it to a coin shop, and discovered he had found a dramatic double-die variety in negative 58 Australian dollars condition. That nickel sold for $18,000, not millions, but enough to change his immediate financial situation. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1946 Jefferson nickel? What are the specific characteristics you need to examine when checking these coins? First, establish the mint mark or lack thereof. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark. Denver coins show D, and San Francisco coins show S. The mint mark appears above Monticello on the reverse side for 1946 nickels. This is critical because values vary significantly between mints. Now examine the coin's appearance carefully. Does it have a silver color rather than the typical copper-nickel appearance? If yes, you may have a transitional error which is extremely valuable. Weigh the coin if possible. A normal copper-nickel 1946 nickel weighs 5 grams. A transitional error on a silver planchet weighs approximately 5.4 grams. This difference is detectable with a decent digital scale. Next, grab your magnifying glass and examine that date with intense scrutiny. Look for any doubling in the numbers 1946. Look for shadow images. Look for any indication of a double die. Even modest doubling can add significant value. Check Jefferson's portrait thoroughly. Examine his eye, his mouth, his hair, the outline of his face. Any doubling here is a major red flag that you have something special. Examine every letter in Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for separation between the letters. Look for doubling. Look for anything unusual. Flip the coin over and check the reverse side. Examine Monticello carefully. Look at the pillars, the steps, especially the famous full steps designation that serious collectors obsess over, and check for any doubling or errors on the reverse. Assess the overall strike of the coin. Is it properly centered with even borders on all sides? Or does the design appear off-center with missing portions? Check the edge of the coin for any irregularities. Look for clips or missing sections of the planchet, and examine the overall condition because grade makes an enormous difference in value. If you believe you found a valuable 1946 Jefferson nickel, follow these critical steps. Absolutely do not clean the coin. Cleaning will destroy most or all of its value. Handle it only by the edges using clean hands or cotton gloves. Immediately place it in a protective holder to prevent any additional damage or contamination, and take clear, detailed photographs of both sides plus the edge. Your next move is professional authentication. Either visit a reputable local coin dealer who specializes in Jefferson Nickels and error coins, or send the coin directly to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. Yes, grading fees can be expensive, typically $50 to $100 depending on the service level. But this is a tiny investment compared to the potential value you might have. A professionally graded and authenticated 1946 era nickel will sell for multiples of what a raw, uncertified example would bring. The market for 1946 Jefferson Nickels, particularly error examples, remains incredibly robust. These coins represent American history. They mark the transition from wartime to peacetime. They feature spectacular errors that are visually dramatic and easy to appreciate, and they're rare enough to be genuinely scarce, but not so rare that they're completely unobtainable. Major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections regularly feature 1946-era nickels in their sales. Private collectors actively seek these coins, and the combination of historical significance, visual appeal, and investment potential creates sustained demand that transcends normal market fluctuations. Here's something critical to understand. You don't need to find the $79 million coin to change your life. Even a modest 1946 double die in circulated condition can be worth several $1,000s. A nice off-center strike might bring $5,000 to $10,000. And even common date 1946 nickels in high uncirculated grades with full steps on Monticello can be worth hundreds of dollars. The key is knowing what to look for and taking the time to examine your coins. Now, here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, after learning about these three incredible Jefferson Nickels, the 2006 D worth $31 million, the 1970 D worth $54 million, and the 1946 worth an absolutely staggering $79 million. I want you to take action. Go check your change, dig out that old jar of coins in your closet, ask your parents or grandparents if they have any old nickels sitting around, and examine them. Really look at them with fresh eyes and the knowledge you've gained here today. Get yourself a decent magnifying glass. They're available for just a few dollars at any hobby shop or online. And start checking every Jefferson nickel that comes into your possession. Look for those mint marks, examine those dates, search for doubling, check for errors, because somewhere out there, in someone's pocket, in someone's drawer, in someone's old coin collection, these valuable nickels are waiting to be discovered. The beautiful thing about error coin collecting is that it costs you nothing but time and attention. You're not buying expensive coins hoping they'll appreciate. You're searching through coins you already have or that pass through your hands naturally in everyday commerce. And when you find something special, when you discover that error, that variety, that valuable coin, the payoff can be life-changing. Remember, The people who found these valuable nickels weren't professional numismatists. They weren't wealthy collectors. They were ordinary people, bank tellers, postal workers, students, janitors, construction workers, people just like you who paid attention, who looked carefully, who took the time to examine their coins, and their lives were changed forever by that single moment of discovery. So don't just watch this video and forget about it. Don't let this information go to waste. Use it, apply it, search your coins, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person with an incredible discovery story. Maybe you'll find that 2006 D double die, that 1970 D transitional error, or that 1946 silver planchet mistake. Maybe your life is about to change because of a 5-cent coin. If you enjoyed this deep dive into valuable Jefferson Nickels, make sure you're subscribed to Error Coins Hunter. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our videos on valuable coins, rare errors, and life-changing discoveries. Drop a comment below and let me know if you're going to start checking your nickels. Tell me if you've ever found anything valuable in your change. And share this video with your friends and family because everyone deserves the chance to discover hidden treasure. The world of error coins is absolutely fascinating. It combines history, art, economics, and the thrill of treasure hunting all in one hobby. And the best part is that anyone can participate. You don't need wealth. You don't need special connections. You just need knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to look carefully at the coins passing through your hands every single day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this entire journey exploring these 3 incredible Jefferson Nickels. Now get out there, start searching, and may you find the coin that changes your life. Remember, fortune favors the observant, and your next nickel could be worth millions.